Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host, broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. Boy, Minnesota. Another day in the national headlines. But I think today's headlines and today's story is somewhat positive. I have to put it that way. We're going to talk about Tom Homan's press conference this morning. Maybe clear heads are prevailing, which was something I was legit concerned about, and maybe you were too. I mean, that's what we need, is we need clear heads to prevail, because this thing was going to get real bad real quick. And also, Shaky Amy Klobuchar is now running for governor to replace Tim Walz. Apparently, Tim Walz says he's never running again. Megan Jesse sent me this clip. I haven't watched it yet. And Gunnar was telling me about it before show prep. So maybe I'll watch that and give you my reaction to that live here, right on the Truth Hurts show. We couldn't do the Truth Hurts show with our great sponsors today. Alpine Cabinetry in the great city of St. Cloud, Minnesota, conservatively owned, best cabinetry shop in all of the state, especially in St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is God's country. You know, people say Minnesota's blue. It's not. Go outside of the Twin Cities. It's a very red state. Although people are trying to make St. Cloud a blue area, and there is a Democrat senator there, Eric Putnam. So something needs to be done about that. Also brought to you by Elite Guardian, mn.com. That's a prepper company I started. Got some people helping out with that. It's going to be really exciting where we take this thing. But right now we do offer firearms training. And I've had a lot of people reach out lately going, when's your next permit to carry class? That's what we call it in Minnesota. It is a concealed carry course. It's the curriculum of USCCA. You see the book in the background. We do have new classes Monday evening, February 9th and February 16th. Go to EliteGuardianMN.com if you want me to be your next permit to carry instructor, new or you got to renew, either one. We welcome people in that class. I hope you can join us. All right, joining me is one of my good buddies from New Media, Gunnar Balstad, who's a lawyer and, thinks very clearly on issues like this. And I really appreciate you joining me. I know you, Mark, trying to get me to do the Truth Expedition show this week. Just didn't line up schedules. But you got a lot to say, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey, thanks. We'll make it happen. Excuse my little earmuffs here. I'm trying to block out all the ice whistles. Hopefully that'll be tamping down here pretty soon.
Well, let's start with that. You are actually, if you could show people outside the window here, I'm in Roseville, Minnesota. Not that we're like safe over here from the chaos, but you are literally downtown Minneapolis. So you're getting a perspective. What's that?
Yeah. I got Target Field in the background. I can see all around like the Eye of Sauron here. No protests today, but they're planning them tomorrow.
Gotcha. Yeah, as it starts to warm up. All right, well, let's get into it. Tom Homan was – okay, I'm just going to put it this way. And, Gunnar, I know you kind of agreed with me. I saw you on social media. My position recently – and I just got to say, I didn't really want to cover ICE. Like, this was not an interesting topic. Now, I voted partly because I did want to fix the border, okay? And I do believe, like, people that are here illegally – should be deported, especially the hardened criminals, which makes sense to focus on those people, right? I think that's a rational viewpoint. I think most people agree with that. There's the fringe left and their cohorts that they've gotten elected to office that don't agree with that position, which is insanity. Like, literally, that is the mission of ICE, which is law. That's what Congress passed, signed by President. I don't remember if that was Reagan or whenever they started. I think it was the 80s. And that is the law, and they have a lawful mission according to federal Congress giving it to them. But there are people that just literally believe that we should make Minnesota a sanctuary state, and of course, Minneapolis is a sanctuary city. So I think that's a radical, crazy position, and most people aren't there. I think most people are with us. It's like we should enforce immigration. The question is the conduct of that enforcement by most people's estimates. And I know a lot of you guys probably hear these talking points on the right, and they act as if, oh, no, ICE can't do any wrong. DHS is doing a great bang-up job. It's like, listen, they weren't. they were screwing up and in a bad way to the point where 2 people have been killed. I'm not opining on if it's a lawful killing. That is something that needs to be figured out through investigation. But abuse of citizens' rights, we've documented that on this channel where they have done that. And clearly this is not good and only agitated the left more. And what I think is so great, Gunnar, is I believe Donald Trump realized that and said, and I guess he's abandoned the old "you're fired" line, but to some extent, he's kind of done that with Greg Bovino, and he's kind of maybe subdued Kristi Noem, and he brings in Tom Homan to be the voice of reason, a guy who literally got an award from President Barack Obama for doing a great job, and I think that was either on the border or on ICE, so something that the left doesn't even seem worthy of. Is that where you stand, Gunnar? Is that a viable position?
I think so, 100%. And I think that there is like, I think we have to try to understand the person's argument here. If you're arguing from the left, okay, so obviously we want to see violent criminals removed from our streets, okay, so we want to see that. What we see here in the Twin Cities is a small police force. There's 600 people on right now, 600 cops, and we have 3,000 ICE agents effectively in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. They stick out like a sore thumb. And so I think when you have the Holman approach of working with local law enforcement to collect people from prisons, working with local law enforcement to go in and execute a search warrant, an arrest warrant. I think that you see that approach and you see it discreet. You see the streets be cleaned up and nobody really notices, apparently. This is the conduct in other states and it's going very well. Here in the Twin Cities, we do have a sanctuary city. So the judges, if there's an illegal immigrant who has committed a crime, instead of detaining that individual for ICE, they'll release them. And it's not just, it's a intentional policy to release illegal immigrants that are criminals back onto the street. Mm-hmm. It's an unpalatable policy. So at war here is we don't want federal agents on our streets stopping random people that are brown and black. Right. I don't want that either. And there's a United States code that actually allows ICE to do this, and a Supreme Court ruling from last year that further gives them the ability to almost use race as a cause to question someone. And they can detain and arrest someone if they think that they are violating immigration law and they're going to escape. So we have this now policing on the ground that is unsightly. It's unpalatable to the average Minnesotan to see people being stopped in their cars and at gas stations. We even have instances of off-duty police officers being pulled over by ICE and asked for papers. So I think you get this very egregious conduct that goes above and beyond what the average voter wanted when they wanted a secure border. They didn't fathom this type of rampaging on the streets. And so I think it's okay then to say, wait a second, that's a little too far. And what we have here are instances of it going a little too far. And we have the general atmosphere and environment in Minnesota very frozen and stale, if you will. It's not a fun place to be when you consider...
It's been awful as someone from the cities. It's the conversation everyone's trying to have. And, it's not the conversation guys like you and I wanted to have because we want to talk about the fraud, the problems of fraud. And it's been a massive distraction. And, of course, the left wanted that distraction. But Trump was feeding into it by this mobilization, right? Which they did have a legit mission. Most of us agree, a legit mission of, actually, getting rid of these illegal immigrants, especially the ones that are hardened criminals. So let's go to this Tom Homan press conference. And I really just think this was a great job all over. It gives me a lot of hope. So let's start with just the beginning, his beginning of speech.
Good morning. I'm Tom Homan, Board of Czar for President Trump. I'm here on behalf of the President, along with U.S. Commissioner for U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Rodney Scott, and Marcos Charles, who's leading the enforcement effort here right now. I've been on the ground since Monday to regain law and order in the city beloved by many, and work together to remove threats from the community. During the past administration, we'll all remember, more than 10 million illegal aliens entered this nation. Many were national security threats, public safety threats. We can't remember over 2 million known gotaways. 2 million people who paid more to get away. Why? That should scare the hell out of everybody. President Trump promised American people, including the residents of Minnesota, that he would work to ensure our communities are safe. And with that, this administration is absolutely focused on identifying removal aliens that pose a public safety threat and national security threats. And the numbers prove it. The data proves it. In the past few days, I've met with Governor Walz, Attorney General Ellison, Mayor Fry, numerous police chiefs and sheriffs, and I have more to meet. I'll also be continuing the dialogue with business and religious leaders in partnership in Minnesota, your communities. I'll be meeting with them too, because I want to hear what they have to say. In my meetings with folks so far, and most importantly, the governor and the AG, the Mayor Fry, we didn't agree on everything. I didn't expect to agree on everything. I've heard many people want to know why we're talking to people who they don't consider friends in administration. Bottom line is you can't fix problems if you don't have discussions.
Okay, so Gunnar, I mean, what a great way to lay this out. First of all, let's just repeat why we're here. There was about 10 million plus people that crossed the border illegally during Joe Biden's presidency. That was a monumental issue in the election, like my beef with Trump on many things, mostly a critique from the right side. The border wasn't one of them. I'm like, yeah, this is a big problem, especially, and I don't know if I think I'm going to get to this clip eventually by Tom Homan, but like the drugs coming across it, the fentanyl that's coming across, the sex trafficking, the people that are dying just on the journey to the U.S.-Mexican border. And don't forget all the things that spur up once I get into communities. Like, this is a massive problem. Oh, and by the way, if you have an open border, nefarious characters from our greatest enemies around the world are going to exploit that border. Oh, there's no evidence or sleeper cells in the United States. I mean, common sense says there is, right? Of course, jihadists have come across the border and infiltrated parts of our country. Of course they did that. CBS 60 Minutes did a documentary on Chinese immigrants coming into the U.S. Mexican border. It's like, of course, people that seek very bad means and terroristic type acts have come into America from that border. Okay, so he makes that case, and then an adult's in the room. Why are we having conversations? Because that's what you do. And I got to say, speaking on behalf of 80% of Minnesotans, that's what we wanted. A conversation with adults in the room. And I get it. I think Tim Walz is a terrible person. Jacob Fry's a little boy, right? But you got to talk to them. They were elected, and they're the guys, in charge. You got to go talk to them. Where do I go wrong on that, Gunnar?
No, I think that that's perfect. And I think that even when you just deal with Minnesota politics in general, when you talk about why are you working with the Democrats, well, you get what you want out of it. And that's what you're doing. So, I mean, if you want something, you have to work with the other side. And it's not just, we're compromising or what have you. I mean, you have to look at it as achieving an objective and taking it. And that's what I think Homan's approaches here, and I think it's great. I mean, of course, you have to talk with Fry, especially if we're going to go to the place where we can begin to pull people out of prisons. So if there are illegals in prisons, we're going to have to work with city officials, state officials, to ensure that there is a open communication with ICE and that those people can be detained. And so, I mean, I commend him for trying that. You can't just go in and Bavino it, put on, fancy uniforms and try to act hard or something like this. Like that type of PR didn't really land well. And so, of course, we want somebody who is going to go in, has been here before. This is just another city on the stop for Tom Homan, and I do think he's going to be able to bring calm and peace here while continuing ICE activity.
Okay, let's go into some of the things that he discussed with these leaders, or I shouldn't say. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say leaders. They're not leaders in Minnesota. These political leaders.
Collaboration, and we'll expand upon it. That decision has made Minnesota safer, not only for residents of Minnesota, but the men and women in law enforcement. Not just ICE, all law enforcement. Rather than arresting the same public safety threat, significant public safety threat over and over again, they agreed to work with us to identify those people and remove them. I'm also pleased to announce I had a very good meeting with Attorney General Ellison. And he has clarified for me that county jails may notify ICE of the release dates of criminal public safety risks so ICE can take custody of them upon the release from the jail. And let me tell you why that's important. I know people are a lot concerned about the manpower has been sent in law enforcement manpower. Look, I've said this many times before. I've said it for the last several years. Give us access to the illegal alien public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail. It's common sense. It's safer for the community, it's safer for the agent, and it's safer for the alien. Because anything can happen on a street arrest. It just makes common sense. And for the people that argue, well, we're a welcoming community because we want victims and witnesses of crime that are here illegally to feel safe to come to police without fear they're working with ICE, we're not going to talk to the victim and witness of crime. There's no problem there. They should feel safe to come.
Okay, so once again, what I think is just a clearly rational viewpoint here. Let us know when these people are being released from jail, and let us not put this stuff out in the streets. And that's been the problem, is if Minneapolis PD, by the order of Jacob Fry, won't, cordon off an area so that an Alex Preddy doesn't get too close to these operations and then lose his life. Maybe we don't even need that in the first place if we're letting them be released into ICE hands, right? Which is their role, right? Do we not all agree that is their role? That's what we should be wanting them to do.
I think if you look at where we started, where we had droves of people coming here who were undocumented, and they were receiving free health care, and they were being put up in the nicest hotels in any nice city. What was it? Was that Martha's Vineyard was a famous island where Obama and many other wealthy people have estates. I think it was Texas shipped up a bunch of undocumented people who were just looking for, a place to stay, what have you. So Martha Vineyard is a small little community, and they're overwhelmed. And I think that is a case study for the country. The rapid importing of folks is detrimental to society and its economy, no matter where they're from. And when you see the difference here in a police structure that's hostile in the streets, it's a huge shift in what we see as this immigration enforcement. So we've come a long way, but again, I think it's okay to say that was a little too much. Those stormtroopers in the streets was a little too much. And yeah, we do want to see is it 10,000 people in January that have been pulled off the streets in Minnesota. 8,000 of them apparently were violent criminals. I struggle with this because living in the Twin Cities and working in many restaurants as I grew up and went to college, I knew a lot of undocumented people. They're amazing. They truly are. And so it's hard then to say these people they have to go, these people can stay. There's this concept that I have that the injustice of uprooting someone who's been quasi promised by our federal government a place to stay is the injustice of uprooting them outweighs the injustice of them staying here to some degree. And I do think that that describes a portion of the demographic of illegal immigrants. So I don't want to see all of them just uprooted and torn away from their families, etc. I would like to see a fine-tooth comb go in and get the illegal or go in and get the violent criminals. And then I would honestly like to see some type of immigration reform where, borders are closed. Some of the people who are here that have done so legally, that are upstanding citizens, should be able to stay. I know that's not always a popular position on the right.
But and that's fair. I actually kind of agree with the sense that, we need to reform the immigration laws. But I do think, and he addresses this. I want to play Tom Homan's make his case, because if you are here illegally, you did break the laws of this country, right?
Right.
And so I think what you're trying to say is you're probably opining on the people that broke the laws illegally, and they're
that had some indication that they had a pathway of citizenship, et cetera.
But they're here, contributing economically, which we know obviously happens. And I do think, like, when you get past the fact that, you broke the laws to come here, I probably would too if I was coming from an impoverished area, right? So, like, I almost can't fault them for that sense. But Tom Homan's got a really good retort to it. So let me cover that in a second, because I don't want to jump out of order. This is where he, I think, does a very good job articulating the mission, and then, owning up to the fact that mistakes were made, which I think is important.
As well as state and local law enforcement. Again, I appreciate they all acknowledge that we do have federal immigration laws in this country that have been passed by Congress, and that ICE is in fact a legitimate law enforcement agency charged with enforcing those laws. We're not making this up, folks. ICE is enforcing laws enacted by Congress. They're a federal statute. That said, I'm not here because of the federal government has carried this mission out perfectly. First thing I said to senior staff when I walked in here is what I told you earlier. I didn't come here looking for photo ops or headlines. I come here looking for solutions. I do not want to hear that everything's been done here has been perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. Anything can be improved on. And what we've been working on is making this operation safer, more efficient, by the book.
Okay, once again, cooler heads have prevailed here, right? Like, why is that hard to admit? Like, I literally have seen people on the right almost make every excuse possible for DHS here. I say DHS just so people know, because it's not all ICE. Border Patrol and other services, HSI, have been part of this. So it's Department of Human Services. If they can make no mistake, it's like clearly they've made mistakes. And Trump acknowledges it. That's why he removed Bovino from the state and brought in Tom Homan, a cooler head, right? So, like, clearly mistakes have been made, and leave it to Trump, the guy that says you're fired, to, like, correct that. Now, I got a little message here by Terry, my good friend Terry, says, Jake, illegals need homes. Will you give up your home for illegals? No, I wouldn't do that. I'm not making that argument. Maybe you're making that more towards Gunnar. The whole point, and someone wrote, Becky said, we don't need immigration reform. We need people to follow law. I know, but that's a simplistic way to look at the fact that so many people came here illegally. So what do you do with that? Mass deportation.
What about all the people that came here? What about all the people that came here illegally and then, have DACA or whatever protection status, and then they're in, like I said, a quasi gray area, legal status, and they missed an immigration hearing, and now ICE is after them. I don't necessarily think people like that need to be deported. and that's kind of the case that I'm making. I think if
Oh,
I
so you're
think there,
saying
you know,
for the
should be
limbo, the
mutual.
people in limbo.
Right. I think, you know, if
Okay.
you recently just jumped the border and you're here illegally, you have every right to be deported. But if there's somebody who's been here for 10 years and they're under some quasi protected status, I think that those folks should be included in that immigration reform. But then again, I'm just trying to say, how do we remove people whistling on the streets? And how do we get like the Tom Homan approach? How can we get adults in the room? How can we start collecting those offenders from prisons? And then how can we get a reform in such a way where if you have some type of legal protected status, but you're still afraid of ICE, those are the people that I'm more, concerned about, if you will.
Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying. All right. Let me go to, speaking of protests, Tom Homan's comments on this. I thought this was pretty good too.
You have your First Amendment rights, I support that. You have the right to protest. I'm just asking you to keep it peaceful. But threatening law enforcement officers, engaging in impeding and obstruction and assault is never okay. And there will be zero tolerance. You interfere, impede, assault ICE officers, you will be arrested.
Okay. And I don't think we should at all be against that. Seems like a very common sense thing. Now, since the last time I've done a video, or it's certainly been live, this video came out. This is showing Alex Preddy. I'm not going to comment here. I'm not saying his killing was justified. However, a lot of us, just based off the video on January, what was that last weekend, January 23rd or whatever, just judging by that video, we thought Alex Preddy wasn't really like some kind of nefarious character that was trying to attack ICE. But then this video came out, and it does seem pretty validated.
News movement filmed on January 13th.
This is from the News Movement channel.
Alex Preddy interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy. On the morning of January 13th, our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. We arrived around 10:15.
Different angle here.
We saw observers shouting at the agents as they walked back to their vehicles. When they started driving away, the man kicked their taillight. An agent then got out of the vehicle, grabbed him, and pushed him to the ground.
Okay, and the reason I show this, and once again, I want to be very clear. It was very horrific watching him being shot, which was last Saturday. Was that the 23rd or 24th? This is going back to January 13th. What it does is it shows that he wasn't necessarily an innocent bystander in general towards ICE, which was the narrative that we were originally fed. None of us had this perfect information, by the way. But it's interesting, and it's like, did ICE know about this? And I also look at this and I go, well, see, the fact that Minneapolis PD, by the order of Jacob Frey, won't help cordon off an area for what I would consider to be legitimate operations of illegal immigrants, then this is the stuff that ends up happening, and it escalates and it goes in a very bad place. Do you disagree with that, Gunnar?
Well, I think that good residents of Minneapolis were actually encouraged by their city leaders to go out and behave like this. They wanted people to go patrol the streets. They made it known that ICE was not welcome and made soldiers out of many Minneapolis residents. This is a perfect example of how things weren't handled perfectly. This was a mistake by ICE. On the 24th, when Alex was assassinated, effectively murdered in the streets. When we look at this previous video, I think it informs our understanding of Alex's motivations here a little bit, but I struggle with this. I think, is this a fresh encounter? Is this a new situation? And so I kind of think that enough time has, because we see actually a very different demeanor in Alex on the 24th. We see Alex on the 24th a little more reserved, okay? I think the thing that he
hold on. But I'm just going to push back here, okay?
Yeah.
You say that's in a very short window of video, right?
Right.
Okay. And this is the thing. And if you look at my Facebook account, I am getting shit from both sides on this, but I really do believe I'm representing a very well-held view by most Minnesotans here, in the sense that it looked really bad, but at the same point, we don't have perfect information, right? I actually I come down the side. I'm just sick and tired of all the lies and the lies from the mainstream media in Minnesota and nationally, and the lies coming from Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino and Kash Patel. I hate those lies. That's why I really like a guy like Tom Homan, who seems to be much more of a straight shooter, a lot more integrity. Because I'm like, good God, that's what we need here, right?
Right. I mean, certainly. I think that we do need someone to, say we're going to investigate this as opposed to just grabbing those agents and putting them out of state. Um, Now, I think when we look at this, like, yeah, we don't know exactly what happened before the camera rolled on the 24th, but we do see him kind of going off to the side and just standing there with a camera. I think where he really made a mistake, obviously, is willing to confront officers with a pistol on your person is probably not the smartest thing to do. I mean, let's just go right there and say that. Was he attending a protest with a weapon on him? We don't know if he was attending a protest. Was he just walking down the street? Well, now from this previous encounter, we have information that informs our opinion here, and that is, well, he likely was an instigator. So let's go back to this particular situation, though. I think when there was an individual who was maced that he was helping up, who was continued to be kind of maced and harassed by this ICE agent, and he kind of pushed that person away, right? Wasn't a shove, wasn't a mean push. It really was off like, okay, dude, point made, get out of here, sort of thing. And that agent apparently did not like that conduct. The other question I have is, was it the same agents that he encountered before when he kicked the taillight? I doubt that.
Or
But
was
then
he
again,
known?
that kind of informs whether, or was he known? That kind of informs whether this was a fresh encounter as well. But I still kind of think we're operating in fresh encounter territory. He didn't know those officers, and he was being a little more reserved. Now, when the officers grabbed him, maced him, hit him in the head with a flashlight, etc., one officer came in and grabbed his pistol, disarmed him. Jake, do you think that like, where do you think, what do you think prompted the first ICE agent to shoot? Do you think it was seeing the gun? Do you think the gun malfunctioned? Like, what do you think caused the agent to shoot first and foremost?
Well, I'm not in the camp of these Sig Sauers going off, just like malfunctions. I find that so hard to believe. The other thing out there is it was an accidental discharge. The officer accidentally pressed the trigger, which once again, that's possible. My thinking is at some point somebody yelled gun, okay, and then that just quickly escalated, and then it just took one view of like a hand on some object. It looked like he had a hand. People think it was a magazine, could have been a phone in his hand, and then it really escalated to the point where they started shooting him. What always gets me, and let's just be honest, folks, this is what gets most Minnesotans. It's just like if you go back to Derek Chauvin and George Floyd, it's just at some point it doesn't seem reasonable. So you shoot the guy in the back, then he's laying almost lifeless, and then many more shots are fired. That's what most people see, and they go, "Whoa, that's crazy," and that is crazy, right? Like, right. I've never been in law enforcement, but I was an infantry officer in the U.S. Army, and I can't imagine doing something like that, like shooting someone in the back. That's like the shit that, like, you do to like the enemy in a really bad situation in the movies, right? Like, you don't shoot people in the back like that. The one case where you would is, you literally thought that he was trying to harm another individual. And that's something I just can't opine on, really. And none of us really can, because we just don't know. And you just hope there's an investigation. And we don't know where that goes. Let me bring up the last clip here by Tom Homan, because I know your time is precious, Gunnar. This is what I really appreciate, because once again, my position in all this is I'm sick of the lies. It got everyone that's watching this. You guys all know how bad the media is, right? The media is just awful. They're kind of eating crow right now because they were making Alex Preddy out to be this, perfect A student, caring, good individual. And maybe he was, prior to this ICE stuff, because that video clearly shows he was not a very peaceful guy. Maybe he was, and then you wonder what radicalized him at this point. And then I think there's a lot of blame by politicians in Minnesota, FYI. But yeah, I think I can't stand the lies also by like DHS, and where they've had this huge mission creep where they're not just targeting the hardened criminals. And so the press asked this question to Tom Homan, and boy, I thought this was really well done because I think most people, reasonable people, believe this. So let's play this here.
This is the way to go to reduce safety, reduce crime, not reduce safety, reduce crime and increase safety for our operations. More people in the jail means less people on the street. It's simple math.
Lana Zach, CBS News. Everybody I've spoken with agrees that if somebody has a violent criminal history and is a fugitive, they don't want them as their leader. But when you're talking about a targeted operation, and are you talking about targeting people whose crime is coming to this country, or is it a more specific definition now?
All operations will be targeted, but the prioritization are going to be criminal aliens, public safety threats, and national security threats. I've met with Marcos and his staff. We got a lot of them. We got a lot of them to keep us busy. So that would be our focus.
But that is enough that's what, there is not going to be a focus on people who have no other crimes except for their status.
If you're in the country illegally, you're never off the table. But privatization doesn't mean you forget about everybody. So let me say this. If the message we send is you can enter this country legally, it's a crime, don't worry about it. You can have your due process, show up in court, not show up in court, get ordered moved, don't worry about it. Unless you commit a serious crime, you're good to go.
Right.
If that's the message we send to the world, you're never going to fix this problem.
Right.
The most vulnerable people in the world will make that dangerous journey like they did under the Joe Biden administration. Over 4,000 aliens died making that journey. And it's, again, a significant increase in sex trafficking. Because when they did that and opened those borders up saying, we're not going to detain you, we're going to give you free health care, we're going to fly you to the city of your choice, put you in a free hotel room, give you 3 meals a day, and give you work authorization, we're just going to bring you in. And when they did that, they sent a message to the whole world, you can come and do this. And what happened? They overwhelmed the men and women of the Border Patrol, where many days 70% of agents were pulled off that line. 70%. You don't think the criminal cars had a field day with that?
Okay, such a fantastic point. Once again, Gunnar, I kind of think one of the reasons that Tom Homan comes across so well is because he doesn't come across so well. And what I mean by that is he's not so polished. He's always stumbling over his word. He kind of, in some regards, mumbles. And in that sense, it makes it more authentic. You look at this guy and you go, oh, he's not like some politician that's taking like camera lessons. He's a guy that literally is probably working his butt off 20 hours a day. And he's so focused on that. I mean, am I wrong on that? Is that not kind of like the connotation?
I like his delivery. He's very matter of fact. He's like a cancer oncologist giving a prognosis. It's not always comfortable or flattering, what have you, but it's the truth. And so sometimes the truth hurts. And what we have here is Homan just dishing it up. And I mean, we did have an open border. I mean, we had people could just pull up an app and say, I want to come to the United States, and there'd be a flight, practically the next day. So that had to stop. It had to stop. And it has. The question is now, how do we do the roundup? And so I think we have to be cautious when we do the roundup because we are human. And there are folks who, ought to be ousted immediately. And there are folks whose case has a little bit more of an interesting discussion behind it. And, that's where I think Homan's approach there is, I'm not here to look after every single person who is brown. I'm not trying to catch every illegal. I'm here to get the violent criminals off the street. And we can all agree to that. And I think that's a great approach. And that's exactly what needs to be done. And I think obviously we need to end the sanctuary status.
Right on.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. I know you only had 30 minutes. I took up 40 minutes of your time.
Yeah, let's go back to Preddy though, just for a moment.
Okay, because,
sure. I just want to say, I think that what this is really going to hinge on is why the officer decided to make that first shot. And because what we see is an accidental but apparent execution. The guy was quickly disarmed and then shot. That was just an insane chain of events. And so what I really want to know is what prompted that officer to give the first shot. Was it an error in adherence to police protocol? Was it just, oh, he saw a gun and then shot? Did he make a mistake? Because if that's the case, like, obviously this is incredibly unjustified, no matter what the guy had done previously or what his ideology was. I think Rustic Gal brings up a good comment here that perhaps he was, down on his luck, a little suicidal and wanted suicide by cop.
Hold that thought, because I think she's saying something that's not true here.
Oh my God.
Not that Rustic Gal. I think you just fell for something that's online that's fake. You got to be careful all the fake news. I'll address that in a second. I think the point you're making here is really important because I did see someone. Yeah, there you go. Terry Time goes an execution. Okay, if he was disarmed and the agents had perfect knowledge he was disarmed, right? Meaning basically at this point he is not a threat to life or limb, then that's a freaking execution, right? That's 100% an execution, and we should all be against the federal agents doing that. But the point here, and I hear you making it, is did they have a reasonable belief that he was a threat because there was something in the hand, someone yelled gun, there was an accidental discharge, and therefore the term execution isn't warranted. And I think as Brad wrote in here that he might have had a justifiable shooting, even though the event's not justifiable in the end because he was disarmed. It's justifiable in the aspect of the law because it's the reasonable person standard. I think that's what you're trying to make. And I want to make sure we get that distinction out there because it's only an execution if everyone had perfect knowledge that this person's not a threat and then they use the force.
Exactly. And that's where I think that's where we need to investigate to calm down the public outcry here. And if, let's say that ICE agents saw him reaching for something and he believed it to be a gun, but it was actually just a magazine. Let's say Alex thought he was still armed and was reaching. Well, then there you go. Then that justifies the shooting right there. But we need more information because, again, what that looks like is, well, very violent, bloody, and something we don't want on our streets.
There's this old story, and I don't know if this is actually, I think it's something that actually happened. It was like a cop responding to an incident, and the description was probably a black young teenager, 20-year-old in a hoodie, and was armed and dangerous, just robbed a store. And cops show up on the scene, and they see someone that fits the description, hoodie, and he's walking away. Cops scream, hold your hands up high, and all of a sudden the kid who's got headphones on turns around and sees this and goes to turn off, the Walkman or whatever it was at the time, and they see a flash of something metal, thinking it's a threat, right? The kid shouldn't have died. I don't know if this is a true story or not, but you could understand that, like that scenario. This is an innocent party here, but they believed at the point because he fit the description he was going for a gun. So I think all of us that are reasonable minded go, let's let an investigation occur. Right. And it's tragic because yes, we do see he's disarmed, but they're making those split second decisions. Okay, let me just address real quick. Rustic Gal had a comment. Alex got fired from his nurse job 4 months ago and wiped his social media clean before he went to riot. I just did a quick fact check on that. That doesn't seem correct at all. Got to be careful, guys. You got to be so careful. All the fake news on both sides of it. I actually think there are people that literally get their kicks from just putting out fake news and watching how far it goes. So yeah, it just unfortunate that's not true. Now, with that being said, yes, something went wrong with this guy. I mean, look at that video from January 13th. You got to think this guy, it's unlike George Floyd, who was a piece of shit as a person. This guy was a ICU nurse at the VA clinic in Minneapolis. You would think this guy had a decent bone in his body. So what turned him into this guy like that was full of rage that started, damaging federal property and getting in the way of, a federal law enforcement operation. And so, yes,
Propaganda and bad policy. That's what drove him to do it.
yeah.
Propaganda and bad policy.
Oh, Rustic Gal says, I'll send you the link, Jake. Okay, well, no, let me stand corrected here. But I'm guessing that is not true, just because I did a quick Google search. We don't always get the facts right here because, this is a live show. But I do try to make sure when we present things that they are accurate. Gunnar, thank you so much for joining. I know you pissed off some people in
Thanks,
here.
everyone.
Okay, we love you.
Job done. Thanks, everyone. Later, Jake.
All right.
Be good.
Yeah, Rustic Gal, if you do send that to me, yeah, well, let's take a look at it. But it's got to come from a good source. I didn't actually even show that video yesterday of Alex Preddy from January 13th because I was very cautious to make sure that the video was legitimate. And then someone posited the theory, is this AI? And I'm like, oh my God, if that's AI, that's bad. I don't know if you guys see this, but holy crap, like the amount of wild animal AI things. Have you seen this? It's insane. And I am a big sucker. Luckily, I don't fall for these things, but there are they'll like show like this moose attack a human, or you guys probably all see the Ring cameras and they're like a moose or a bear comes up to this like pop-up ghost on the during Halloween, and then it goes flying away. Oh my God, they are so real looking. Like it's insane. And they're all fake. They're completely fake. It's like, oh my God, how good AI is getting. I don't know. I've got to be honest with you. I'm this close to just joining Sarah Connor and joining the resistance. We're doomed in that regard. Okay, let's get into the other big story here in Minnesota today. Shaky Amy Klobuchar is running for governor. I just want to tell you how crazy this is. It's been over 2 weeks since Governor Walz dropped out. Thank you, Nick Shirley's video. And quite frankly, the Democrats didn't have a candidate in all that time. Now, we knew that they were going to eventually get a candidate, but it was so interesting. The Democrats literally in an election year did not have a candidate. And then late last week, or no, early this week, I think it was Klobuchar's official paperwork was in with the CFB. So she was able to raise funds. And then today, she made her announcement to run for governor of Minnesota. And because we're such big fans of Amy Klobuchar around here, why don't we give you the breakdown of her wonderful campaign launch? By the way, Brad says, tell Jesse to write an article about Shaky. I'm sure he has. I'm sure he's working on it right now. Where is it? Amy Klobuchar. All right, Amy Klobuchar for governor.
Minnesota, we've been through a lot.
Oh, I can't stand it. We're done. Oh my God. You're going to tell us we've been through a lot with these cameras and, makeup and, this fireplace in the background and pretend like you're in some just home. Like, oh my God. It's just so fun. Okay. Sorry, guys. Everyone does this. All the candidates do this. I get it. Yes, politicians give you this dreamy atmosphere and really bring you in with their emotions. Oh, we've been through a lot, Minnesota, and I've been there with you, except for the time I'm out in Washington, D.C., with all the other elites. But all right, let's hear from Amy Klobuchar.
Minnesota, we've been through a lot.
No, I'm sorry. I can't do it. Why are people attracted to this person? I don't understand. Like, why does she do well electorally? She's actually been falling electorally, not failing, but falling. Royce White did the best against her of all candidates, and she just was horrible when she was running for president. But somehow in Minnesota, and part of the reason is, like, if you're my age, 43 and younger, like, you don't know the Klobuchars, but her dad was like a big columnist for Star Tribune, so all the boomers knew her dad, and so that's why apparently she did so well in politics in Minnesota. And us younger people go look at that and go, what the heck? Like, this is their gal? Rustic Gal says her hair looks better in a snow blizzard. And by the way, Rustic Gal's making commentary on when she ran for president. She did an outdoor announcement video, and it was like a blizzard. And she literally has, like, one of her pillars of her campaign was to end global warming. So okay, I digress. Let's go back to Shaky Amy here. Shaky Amy.
Minnesota, we've been through a lot. A beloved leader and her husband murdered in their home, little kids gunned down in a church, the killings of Renee Good, a mom of 3, and Alex Preddy, a nurse who took care of our veterans. 3,000 ICE agents on our streets and in our towns, sent by an administration that relishes division. We cannot sugarcoat how hard this is, but in these moments of enormous difficulty, we find strength in our Minnesota values of hard work, freedom, and simple decency and goodwill. These times call for leaders who can stand up and not be rubber stamps of this administration, but who are also willing to find common ground and fix things in our state. These times call for grit.
I could see what's the actor's name from Truman Show? Well, why am I forgetting the name? He was the general in The Rock. Oh my God, it's slipping my mind right now. He's got that little artsy hat on. He goes, "Cue the music, Amy Klobuchar. We're doing an emotional change here." Oh man. Oh, okay. Sorry. That's just what's going on. All right, cue the music. Here we go. Cue the music. We're gonna change the tone.
To find common ground and fix things in our state. These times call for grit and resilience. I've learned resilience from you. Through it all, you do not give up. You put on.
Show her with the common people. He's putting on his work boots. Look at that real authentic thermos and the pale lunch, and all that stuff. She's just with the common people, the guy at the meat store and, the blue collar dudes, hard hat. What is his name, damn it, guys? Come on, someone help me out here. Geez, what is it? What's that? The actor's name. You know what I'm talking about. You guys have seen The Truman Show, right? Cue the music, all right? We got to get to the emotional strings. All right, let's hear what she has to say. Sorry, I can't help it.
To find common ground and fix things in our state. These times call for grit and resilience. I've learned resilience from you. Through it all, you do not give up. You put on those winter boots in the freezing cold and bring your kids to school and bring food to your neighbors. That's Minnesota. Minnesota built this nation. We are bold about doing big things. We mined the ore that won World War II. We invented everything from the pacemaker to the Post-it note. We feed the world. And now our next big frontier is before us. Educating our kids, training our workers, expanding our businesses, protecting the people of our state. All of them. All of that will require a government that can carry its weight and match your drive and hard work. I believe we must stand up for what's right and fix what's wrong. That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for governor of the state of Minnesota. I am running for this job for every person who wants their work recognized and rewarded, for every Minnesotan who wants to buy their first home, for every parent who wants a better world for their kids. I'm running for everyone who wants more affordable health care, for every student, farmer, dreamer, and builder. And I'm running for every Minnesotan who wants ICE and its abusive tactics out of the state we love. Every day, I will bring these principles to the job.
Hold on. So is she running against ICE in general? Let's see this again.
And its abusive tactics out for every Minnesotan who wants ICE and its abusive tactics out of the state we love.
So ICE, one of her policy positions is ICE out of Minnesota. Now, I agree with you on the abusive tactics, which, obviously limited in scope, but that's where they do get, a legitimate, critique. But I guess her policy decision is no ICE in Minnesota. There you go. She's for sanctuary states. Sanctuary state.
Every day, I will bring these principles to the job. 1,
Oh, by the way, let's get ready for it, guys. This is the most bold Oh yeah, there we go. That's Ed Harris. Thanks, Brad. It's not Jim Carrey, TA 1022. I know who Jim Carrey is. Ed Harris. There we go. LK to live put in here. Christoph, now director of communications for Amy Klobuchar. Yeah, that's his name. Ed Harris plays Christoph. Truman Show. It's so worth watching it. Oh my god, guys! I just got to be honest with you. If you're watching this channel for the first time, I have like zero respect for politicians. I mean, there's few statesmen that are in office. You know, it's a rarity. Most of these people, I view them as clowns. Someone asked me today. They go, who do you think we should want more as the next state or next U.S. senator from Minnesota on the Democrat side? And or no, I guess the question was, who do you want to win the Democrat nomination for Senate? Angie Craig or Peggy Flanagan? And my response was, I think Washington, D.C. is a lost cause at this point. I really don't know if you can fix it. That's why I focus my stuff on the state and localities. So send Peggy Flanagan, because we do better at opening up people's opinion of how bad Washington, D.C. is by sending our clowns there, right? Like, Angie Craig's much more moderate. Send the clown in, right? I have no respect for these people. They're a bunch of liars. But all right, let's hear it. At least Amy's got a real bold platform. Let's hear her bold platform.
These principles to the job. 1, get things.
Bam! Oh, she's going to get things done. There you go. That's the most bold statement I've ever heard from any candidate, you know. What is she going to get done? Things. She's going to get things done. Thank God, Amy. Thank you for getting things done.
Done. If we want change, we can't wait for others to solve our problems. 2, I'll bring people together.
Democrats, guys, listen, it's just Trump that's pulling us apart. You know, Democrats never talk in divisive terms, right? You know, that guy that was, as Amy put it, sharp as a tack, right? The guy that is mentally fit to still be in office. She went to visit the White House. He's still mentally fit. Better than, I think, didn't Amy say he's like better than I've ever seen him, right? You know, that guy didn't say something like, the biggest threat to America and to our democracy are mega extremists. He didn't say something like that. That would actually be very divisive. Or, you know, these deplorables that she supported, you know, in 2016, that candidate, you know, those wouldn't be divisive terms, not at all. Or, you know, talking about the rich and the wealthy and the greedy billionaires and stuff like that, those wouldn't be divisive terms. Class warfare, that wouldn't be divisive. No, that's all Donald Trump and the Republicans. You are going to bring people together. Give me a freaking break.
I was ranked number 1 in the Senate for bipartisan bills and number 3 out of 100 for getting bills passed into law. I'm ready to work with leaders from both parties in our state. 3, I'll stand up for what's right and fix what's wrong.
Well, there you go. Another bold statement. She's going to stand up for what's right and fix what's wrong. I was looking at all the candidates, and, you know, there's so many candidates that are going to stand up for what's wrong and fix what's right. At least Amy's going to stand up for what's right and fix what's wrong. Thank God she's got that bold statement out there. Jeez.
I don't like fraud or waste in government. That's why I went after crime as county attorney. I will make sure the people who steal taxpayer money go to jail and root out the fraud by changing the way state government works.
Where have you been? Where have you been? You've only been a senator since 2007. 2007, right? Yeah, 2000, right? 2007. You've only been a senator that long. You know, a lot of these programs, by the way, are administered by, you know, the state or counties on behalf of federal funds. Like, they're literally coming from the bills that you've been passing. Like, now you're going to fix the fraud. The fraud's gone rampant, and you've been a U.S. senator funding these things. Why would anyone give you credibility on fraud? Oh, because now you're in the role of a governor. Now you're going to finally get to work and fix what's wrong. Yeah, right.
I will do my job without fear or favor. I've never shied away from taking on the powerful. That's what I did as prosecutor. That's what I did as senator. And that's what I will do as your governor. I like my job in the Senate, but I love our state more than any job. I love the people of Minnesota. And Minnesota, I want to be a transformative governor. Now is our moment to renew our commitment to the common good. I'm asking Democrats, independents, and Republicans to join our campaign.
And she'll get some Republicans. It's insane that there are people that switch over for her. I don't get it.
It is a homegrown one born in a moment like no other. It is for people who believe in something bigger than ourselves. I'm asking Minnesotans across this state to not look down, to not look away. I'm asking you to look to each other. I'm asking you to look up to the North Star and to see that there is a better future before us. To pursue good, we must believe that good will prevail. I know I do. And that's why I'm asking you to join us.
Yeah. So, and I still am convinced that the core issue in the next election will be the high price of goods in this country. Although, I've had that viewpoint, and I always leave myself out because things can change, war, or I don't know, things like unraveling in our streets. But I have to say this, and she talks a little bit about like the price of things when she's talking about like groceries and home prices. Guys, Amy Klobuchar is the reason your dollar is worth less today. Like, we have to understand, this is the thing that really pisses me off in politics, is that people act as if inflation is some mystery, or lies from like the left that it's just corporate greed. It's predictable. It is so predictable. When you expand the monetary supply because you have a government that's running $2 trillion deficits every year, thank you, Amy Klobuchar. By the way, Amy Klobuchar, ever since being in office, has never seen a balanced budget. Not once. And she's okayed a ton of massive deficits, including the largest one. So she's the reason for the unaffordable prices we're dealing with. And then acts as if, well, put me in as governor and we'll really solve this thing. Bullshit. Like, you've had your chance. You've been in government for a very long time and you didn't get the job done, and we're paying for it. That's Amy Klobuchar for you. I'd love to hear what you guys think, though. Put some comments in the comment section here. Tell me what you think of Shaky Amy's her run for governor. Tell me what you think. I'd be very curious. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to do our post show here with our premium insiders. I don't have this queued up yet. If you want to become a premium insider, I am going to send you a link right here. We're going to put this in the thread. Where is my thread? Here we go. Get that here. Become a premium insider. And this is the best way to support the show. And then you get access to the post show and some special content. And as you guys know that have been watching the show for a while, we're putting out a ton of content, daily videos, covering things that other people haven't covered. If you want to go back and look at our show from Tuesday, Ramsey County, requiring appointments for permit to carry applications that go out a month and a half away, which is almost like a backdoor way to stop people from, being able to keep and bear arms. So anyhow, I like it, Brad. Cue the sun. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Another reference to the Truman Show. Great movie, by the way. We thank our sponsor today, Alpine Cabinetry in the great city of St. Cloud, Minnesota. Also, thank you to Elite Guardian, mn.com. We do have a new permit to carry course coming up on Monday evening, 5 to 9, and Hugo, Bald Eagle Sportsman Association. That's February 9th, Monday evening. It is cool outside. There's a partially enclosed range, so dress warm if you're going to do that. I'll have ways to make sure that you do stay warm, hand warmers and stuff like that. Very limited time outdoors, but otherwise everything else is in a heated classroom. So if you're looking to renew or get your permit to carry in Minnesota, you can take that course. Let's see here. Let's see. What was I trying to say? Oh, that's a great one. Okay to Live says best $8 I spend each month. Thank you for what you do. Well, thank you. That's becoming a premium insider. We'll do our post show here with a little bit more analysis. Maybe I'll call Terry again. Terry and I can have a discussion. Just Ken Terry. Put her on the. I thought Terry did such a great job. I love Terry. I honestly do. Even if we disagreed on an issue, she's a great person. And by the way, very true believer. Like really, like there's some people I have a lot of respect for from being in the trenches with them. Terry's one of them. There you go. So anyhow, let's chat in the post show. Join us. That gives you a free membership to God, I can't talk anymore. Free membership to Locals. Otherwise, we'll be back on Tuesday and just keep checking for videos. Oh, by the way, if you haven't liked our videos and subscribed on YouTube, it helps out tremendously. We are growing there. We are pretty convinced, at least in the immediate term, that YouTube's going to be a safe place for our voice. And I say that because we have had everything happen to us on YouTube and Facebook. By the way, Facebook completely wiped us off. YouTube was just suspending us for what I would say is speaking the truth on COVID, on January 6th, things like that. But they didn't want you to talk about that stuff. We're not afraid to go there from here. Right now, they're playing good, which is really important because we got some really important things to talk about, fraud in Minnesota and things like that. So anyhow, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where I think the growth potential is. So we'll see you guys on Tuesday. For everyone else, we'll see you in the post show. Take care. Bye-bye.